Good. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us today for our webinar. We got some fantastic content for you on helping to prepare your business for anything that may happen. So, securing your future, the critical role of business continuity planning, such an important topic, something that everyone should be doing. I think a lot of businesses and in firms do it to a certain point. Maybe we don't get to the extent that we probably really should. And there's good reason that we should put the right amount of effort into this. And we're going to cover all that with you today. So everybody get ready and we're just going to get started. I think probably lots of people know me. I'm Michael Sugrue. I'm Chief Revenue Officer and one of the partners here at Pace Technical. But I'm pleased to have with me today Dr. Debbie Davy, who is the director and co-founder of DAVY Communications. Now, their firm provides business continuity readiness services and cybersecurity policy development. And with years of experience in assisting law firms, financial companies, software companies in strengthening their business continuity strategies, Debbie will share insights on what works best for small to medium-sized business firms when it does come to business continuity planning. So welcome, Debbie.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be here.
Awesome. All right. So let's just keep moving along here. I think probably lots of people on the call already know who Pace is. If you've been to one of our webinars before, welcome back. If you've never been to one, welcome. But just super quick, Pace, we're a managed IT service provider working with businesses across the range, law firms. We've been in business now 24 years, really focusing on the proactive side of managed IT services. We have a very specific way that we deliver those services. We do managed IT security, managed cloud services, just over 60 people in the company. We're an ISO 9001 business. 8 years is a great place to work. And yeah, when it comes to law firms, supporting over 60 law firms as well. So look, if you haven't met with us or had a conversation with us in a while, love to have a conversation with you again. If you're a client, thank you again. And yeah, so that's it for Pace. And like I said, if you'd like to hear or see more, just get in contact with us and we'll have ways for you to contact us later in the webinar here. Again, if you've been to our webinars before, we do record our webinars and we do place them, free access on our website. If you just go to pacetechnical.com, under the media dropdown, under resources, you'll find access to all the previous webinars. Lots of good content in there, lots of cyber, Microsoft documents, even a recent one we did on ChatGPT, which was pretty good. So if you'd like to go ahead and have a look back there. So just a couple of housekeeping things first. Yeah, all attendees are in listen only. The webinar is being recorded. That's usually the number one question. And we will be sending out access after the fact to all attendees as well as making it available on our website. You can ask questions during the webinar. You can use the Q&A button on the bottom of your Zoom window, assuming it shows there. It might show on the top for some people. And you can also, raise your hand as well. But we will have time at the end for Q&A, but feel free to pop your questions in at any time as you think of them. And yes, we're going to leave some time at the end for questions. So first off, we wanted to start with just a quick poll question. We're going to do this super informal, but just wanted to kind of get a gauge here. Do you know the difference between business continuity planning and disaster recovery planning? There are some slight differences there, but we're just going to kind of try and get a gauge here of people. Just give it another quick second. And okay, I think that's good. And in the instance of time, we just want to kind of keep going. It looks like it's just basically a mixed audience here, 50-50. But that's good and kind of what we might expect. So I don't want to dwell on this too much. I want to keep going because definitely the difference between these two is 100% going to be covered here. So let's just go over the agenda for today, starting out with unique challenges faced by SMBs and small firms, really kind of defining what business continuity really means, and then addressing some of the common misconceptions about risks smaller firms face, and then highlighting why conducting a business impact assessment is really a good fundamental first step. And then we're going to move to practical steps that can be integrated into your business or firm to bolster business continuity. And then we're going to round off our session by summarizing the key benefits of business continuity planning, how it contributes to resilience and long-term success for your business. And then we'll invite you to join the conversation with any questions. So let's get started. And again, thank you for being here with us today. So wanted to start out by kind of introducing really what we feel anyways is the top 10 challenges really that small and mid-sized companies are experiencing. So, and the first one, no secret here, cybersecurity threats. Obviously, you know, a big part of our business, securing the businesses that we work with, but 100%, there is no 100% resiliency against cyber threats. So they're a big concern because, hey, it all depends on how you're managing your business and your technology. If you're, if you have a more modest approach to IT support and IT management, if you've ever heard me speak about it, I kind of refer to it as a reactive kind of set it and forget it approach. Like if there, if there's nothing jumping out at you with IT, you sort of set it and forget it versus taking that proactive approach, constantly looking at things, measuring yourself against standards and best practices, and certainly IT security standards. You know, you could be leaving yourself more exposed to, you know, data breaches and or ransomware. The second one really depends on key personnel. So if you're really leaning heavily on maybe a few key staff members that maybe hold a lot of knowledge or whatnot, you know, their absence for whatever reason could be a disruption to your business. Sometimes I refer to this as, you know, bus insurance on that one person. Some people like to refer to it as beer truck insurance. Either one works, but just that dependence does potentially leave you a bit vulnerable. And then there's regulatory compliance. If you do have to adhere to compliance, really, if you have more limited resources, trying to maintain that compliance can be a real challenge. And then there's client demanded compliance. We're seeing this a lot, especially if you have any clients or even vendors that are banks, potentially insurance companies. We see them pushing through their own compliance onto their vendors and clients and whatnot. So there's this growing expectation for more robust business continuity plans as a condition for doing business with them. So that's definitely another one. Technology dependency, obviously, we can't get past this one. We're all completely dependent on technology, but, you know, any kind of disruptions in, you know, our tools, cloud services or whatnot can have definitely a big impact on clients. And then just physical office disruptions, whether it's, you know, extreme weather, power outages, health concerns, pandemics that we've seen recently, all these things can affect, you know, access to your workspaces. Client retention and trust, you know, the relationships and trust you've cultivated with your clients, I mean, they're invaluable, especially all depending on what type of business you are. So it's really vital to manage any disruptions carefully and prevent undermining any kind of trust that you might have with your clients. Limited financial resources, you know, really, I guess it all depends. You know, we don't have as deep pockets as some really large companies. So, you know, recovery sometimes from disasters or big business interruptions, it can be costly. So that's, you know, definitely a challenge that small and medium-sized businesses face. And then supply chain and vendor dependencies. also similar to, having that key internal employee, key external services and suppliers, it definitely adds another layer of risk, again, because it can just affect your operations. And then lastly, communications challenges. Communicate effectively during a crisis is really paramount. Yet developing an efficient communication strategy for both clients and employees, hey, it can be complex. There's lots of moving parts in there to navigate, especially if you don't have support for that. So really, these kind of highlight the critical need for comprehensive business continuity planning that's tailored really to the specific circumstances of your business and or just small and mid-sized businesses and firms in general. So why is it important? Threats never go away, and cyber attacks, especially when we consider cyber, which is probably the biggest challenge that we face, like they're on the rise. It's not going away. Like cyber attacks, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. In the days of just the corner room lone hacker, they're pretty much gone. They do exist, but hacking for profit is a big business. So we're really up against sophisticated organizations that also have deep pockets and lots of resources, and they're very, very organized. So just as an example, the 2020 Cyber Threat Defense Report from Cyber Edge Group found that 78% of Canadian organizations experienced at least one cyber attack within a 12-month period. But that number went up in 2021. It rose to over 85% of companies. So, and I think it's still continuing on a rise from there, unfortunately. So to start, let's delve into what business continuity really means and why you need it for your firm's continued resilience and success. So I'm going to give it over to Debbie now for the details.
Thank you, Michael. That's absolutely wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about what business continuity planning is. So business continuity, you'll hear it abbreviated as BCP. Basically, it's a system that helps you prepare for and navigate through various disruptions, whether natural disasters, cyber attacks. It's essentially all about making sure your business keeps running smoothly, even when unexpected things like natural disasters or cyber attacks happen. It's a plan that keeps delivering your products or services without letting your customers down. So let me share some examples with you. So imagine that you're lending money to a friend. Now, whether you're lending $5,000 or $5 million, you're going to go through pretty much the same steps to make sure you're making a smart decision. You're going to assess how trustworthy your friend is, what they need the money for, and how they plan to pay you back. You do due diligence in both cases. It's just the stakes that are different. So it doesn't matter whether it's small or large, it's the same stuff. The same thing with business continuity. There are a lot of different components to it. And you need all of them. You don't just need one of them. What you need is a business continuity ecosystem. And that will protect a small business or a large corporation by doing the same due diligence. If another way to think about it is that your business is like a trusted bank where you store some valuable information. One day, an employee can unknowingly open an email from a scammer and enter login details. And essentially, they're going to hand over keys to the vault. Now, it doesn't matter if you're protecting a handful of confidential files or vast databases. The process to safeguard them remains the same. If you want to protect your business, what you need is a business continuity ecosystem that has about 9 different components. And I'll explain why you need each one and what each one does. The first thing that we need is something called the business impact analysis, or sometimes it's called an assessment, but analysis assessment doesn't matter. But a BIA, business impact analysis, it helps you understand what kind of information that you need and what you need to prioritize. So if we use a bank as an example, right? If we're a bank, then a BIA helps me understand the valuables that are in my bank vault and prioritizes what I absolutely can't afford to lose, such as sensitive customer data. I need a risk assessment. That's the next thing I need. In a risk assessment, I consider potential threats. Someone perhaps posing as a bank official to get past security or doing something they shouldn't. The risk assessment helps us understand what we're up against and how we can better protect ourselves. We need a business continuity management policy. It is a rule book that outlines the steps that we take in case there's a security breach. It's a foundational guide for how to react when things go south. Sort of another analogy, if I can borrow from Lord of the Rings, the one ring to rule them all. The business continuity management policy sets the framework for everything. Within that, we have something called a business continuity plan, and you've heard that. So if I'm a bank and scammer comes in and takes something valuable, what is my plan to recover it? The BCP outlines step by step how I'm going to get back to business as usual. And then there's the disaster recovery plan. Well, it's different from business continuity. The disaster recovery is if somehow critical information is stolen or absconded with. The DRP helps me recover any lost data and restore my systems. So the DRP focuses on the technology aspect mostly, and the business continuity plan offers on the how to keep my company as the going concern. We also need things like an emergency response plan. And what is that? That is my immediate course of action. As soon as I realize that there's been a breach or something's happened, what am I going to do? Well, this is an emergency response plan that tells me my immediate steps for damage control. I also have an incident response plan. Well, what is that? That's like detective work. It helps to trace back how the scammer got in, what vulnerabilities were exploited, and it helps me understand how to plug the gaps. And then I can have a crisis management plan. If news of the breach becomes public, how am I going to handle the fallout with clients and media? So the crisis management plan guides me through managing the escalating situation. And then lastly, I have a training and communication plan. So, for example, just as a bank would train its staff to spot fake IDs, my team would need to recognize phishing attempts and know what to do if they suspect a breach. The training and communication plan keeps everyone informed and prepared. So, as we grow and nurture our businesses, we should be engaging in continuous process improvement activities. There are things that you implement that will make you more successful. For example, when you change personnel, you acquire new businesses. This is a great opportunity to update the business continuity components that we just talked about. There's 9 of them. Remember, the business continuity is not a one and done thing. It has to be part of every single business change that you do so that you stay current, that you stay protected. At the end, it's more than just a contingency plan. It's a fundamental component of sustainable and growth-oriented strategy for any small to medium-sized business, where it's in our world, the only unpredictability is where unpredictability is the only certainty. So, I mean, you got to do it. It may seem like a lot, but again, it's proportional. So we talked about the loan example where I have a $5,000 loan and a $5 million loan. I'm still doing the exact same due diligence. It doesn't matter the amount. Let's talk a little bit about why we should care about business continuity. And let me start by debunking 2 very, very common myths. The first myth is, I'm a small company or smaller company and more agile and therefore less vulnerable to disruptions. Well, contrary to popular belief, businesses, regardless of their size or agility, are not immune to disruptions. The scale of a company doesn't diminish the impact of threats such as cyber attacks. Take, for example, there was the Kaseya ransomware attack in 2021, which affected between 800 and 1,500 businesses globally. Many of these businesses included dentist offices, accountants, lawyers, were not particularly large. And it was global. It wasn't just the United States. It was truly global. And then when it comes to natural disasters, they don't discriminate based on a company size. For example, in 2023, we had the Northeast blackout. That was a really good reminder. It's a massive power outage. It affected parts of the northeastern and midwestern United States and most parts of Ontario. The blackout disrupted the lives of an estimated 55 million people, including 10 million in southern and central Ontario, along with businesses of, guess what, all sizes. And in businesses of all sizes, the absence of key personnel can have a significant impact. In smaller businesses, each team member often plays a crucial role with specialized knowledge or skills that are not easily replicated. And this can be challenging. The unavailability of that key person can lead to some substantial difficulties in maintaining regular operations, meeting client expectations, and progressing with strategic initiatives. Now, let's talk a little bit about resources. I have limited resources. I've got some challenges. And it's not just a small or medium business, any business. But when it comes to rebounding from financial, technological, or operational setbacks, small to medium-sized businesses are particularly harder affected. We saw this during the early stages of COVID. There was a survey that over 30% of businesses in Canada were contemplating permanent closure due to the crisis. In the Greater Toronto Area, many businesses, including law firms, grappled with the transition to remote work, managing client interactions in a virtual environment, and shouldering the burden of expensive downtown real estate costs, which in Toronto we know is significant. The next myth is that cyber criminals only target larger organizations. I'm too small for them. No. Smaller organizations often find themselves as targets of cyber attacks because they're vulnerable and they're small. As we talked about with the Kaseya example, smaller places of business, they're not immune. In fact, they're almost easier to get into. There was a report by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business in 2021 that said that nearly a quarter of Canadian small businesses had experienced cyber attacks since March 2020. I mean, that's a pretty large number. And guess what? Businesses with 20 or more employees, those embracing remote work, and those in specific sectors like manufacturing and business services were found to be more susceptible to cyber fraud. Leave you with some more statistics. It's a very concerning one. There was a survey that was commissioned by the Insurance Bureau of Canada. In 2021, 47% of Canadian small businesses allocated zero budget for cybersecurity. And by the way, the couple of years before, it was 33% of companies that had a 0% budget. So a couple of years later, it's 47%. So in other words, we know that things are happening, but we're not having the resources, we're not allocating the resources to fight it. To add to the challenge, this very same survey reported that 41% of small businesses that fell victim to cyber attack faced costs exceeding $100,000. So if we're going to get hit, it's going to be a lot. So yes, we have cyber insurance that's going to protect us, but guess what? Your costs will go up if they pay up, and it's going to be a problem. So what can we do? So as a small to medium-sized business, safeguarding operations is key. So where do you start? The cornerstone is a business impact assessment. And why is this so crucial? Because it's the tool that helps you understand the most vital parts of your company's operations and the consequences if they're disrupted. You have to think about the BIA as the backbone of your business continuity plan. It's not a checklist. It is a checklist. It's not just a checklist. It's a comprehensive process. It's what's going to guide you in identifying and evaluating the potential impact of disruptions on your essential business operations. The ultimate goal is to create a crystal clear insight of what really matters for your company's function and the fallout to you if you face interruptions. So when you do a business impact assessment, again, it's more than just making a list. You do an in-depth analysis of what are my key business areas and processes. And then you look at how the disruption could affect your firm, both today and in the future. And this means looking at the impact from various angles. So financial, legal, reputational, operational. You have to understand what are my vulnerabilities? And one of the most valuable outcomes of the business impact assessment is the ability to set priorities for recovery. You get to determine which functions are crucial to get back up and running, which ones can wait. And we need this prioritization because we want to set realistic recovery time objectives for each critical function, thus ensuring that the recovery process is swift and effective. And during the BIA, you're going to pinpoint the resources that you need to support these critical functions during times of disruption. And this could include everything from personnel to technology to information, even physical space. The way to think about a BIA, if you think of a power failure, when the power comes back on, they always tell you to unplug things like, the toaster or the washing machine or whatever, stuff that is not necessarily critical so that you don't overwhelm the system. The same way as in a business impact assessment, I'm determining what needs to come on after the interruption and when and why. Why is that so horribly important to me? Another thing to remember is that doing the BIA isn't just a solo mission. Guess what? You need collaboration across your firm. You need insights from various stakeholders so that you get a complete picture of any potential impacts. Again, it's not a do it once and forget it task. It has to be a living process that needs regular updates to stay in sync with any changes that are happening in the environment, operations, external threats, etc. It's never one and done. So let's talk about how we would go about building a business impact analysis. And we're going to break it down into a bunch of steps, and I'll try to go through as quickly as possible. First thing first, make sure you've got the necessary support behind you, whether it's your partners, your management team, or any other business decision makers. Then you get to assign responsibilities to key team members, like assembling a dream team for a mission. Then you get to gather information. You're going to collect all of the little details about your business process. How do they work? What do they depend on? What resources are needed? It's like a roadmap of your operations. Then we get to identify the real MVPs, your critical business functions. These are core activities that keep your organization running. This is the heart of your operation. If they get disrupted, it's going to hurt you. So what are they? Once I've identified them, then I get to put on almost a detective hat and assess the impact of potential disruptions. I think about the immediate, the short-term, the long-term effects. We're talking financial loss, client service headaches, legal tangles, reputational hits. Knowing the impact of all of these things is so very, very important. Then we get to set a clock. We get to determine something called recovery time objective. And we do that for every single critical function. The RTO, recovery time objective, is a countdown timer. It's the maximum downtime that your functions can handle before things get serious. And it helps us set the priorities for recovery. The next thing we do is we identify our key resources, our sidekicks. These are essential elements that need to support our critical business functions: staff, technology, information, facilities, even some external partners if you have them. So you need to know what resources I have available to me so that I can be ready to recover from an incident. Then I can get ready for a risk assessment. A risk assessment, think of it as a superhero origin story. We identify critical potential threats to critical functions and resources. These are cyber attacks, natural disasters, you name it. It's all about understanding who the bad actors in our organization might face. When I have all of these pieces of information, the stuff, then I can develop my recovery strategies, my plans for getting things back on track when disruptions hit. And I need a well thought out plan in order to to make sure recovery goes smoothly. But importantly, we should also document our findings and make them available and share them with our team members. So transparency and communication keep everybody in the loop. The business impact assessment, again, like you've heard us mention before, it's not a one-time thing. It has to be continuously reviewed and updated. I'm not saying every day, but at least once a quarter or once every 6 months, or as circumstances change. So it has to be live. If the worst thing that a company can do is do a business impact assessment and then leave it alone, and the next thing you know, 3 years have gone by, and it's outdated and it's old and stale. So now that we have our business impact assessment, guess what else we'll get to do? We need a risk assessment. And what's a risk assessment? It's a methodical approach that's going to identify risks, evaluate their likelihood and impact, and prioritize them to enhance preparedness. So in a risk assessment, we again start with an information gathering phase. This is a data treasure hunt. We retrieve insights from diverse sources. We look at historical incident reports, IT logs, employee feedback. These are the foundation for uncovering potential risk that could disrupt our operations. Then we look at risks across various domains. We look at our risk landscape. We cover technological risks like data breaches, system failures, operational risks such as the loss of key personnel or supply chain disruptions, natural risks like extreme weather, geological events, not likely in Toronto, but you never know. We could have another snowstorm like we did, a couple of decades ago. And there could even be regulatory changes, economic instability. So we want to make sure that we look at as many different risk categories as possible. Now, it is impossible to identify every single potential risk on the planet, but we can identify what we think is most likely to affect our business. So we assess the probability of each identifying risk, and based on our evaluation of empirical data, industry trends, expert assessments, we analyze the potential impact of each risk on operational continuity. So there's factors like financial repercussions, operational turbulence, legal consequences, damage to reputation. These are all taken into account. And then we have the intelligence that we need for effective planning. And once we have that, we can do a vulnerability assessment where we pinpoint the weak spots within our organization that are most susceptible to each risk. So for example, if we have outdated IT infrastructure, well, guess what? That's going to expose us to vulnerabilities to data breaches. If we look at our risk management measures, we can identify gaps that require fortification. And then we get to prioritize our risk. So we're going to do a hierarchy based on the likelihood and potential impact of the risk. So we're going to focus our resources and attention on the risks that pose the gravest threats to critical operations. And we should do some sort of a visualization, a graph or a chart. We do a risk matrix where we plot the different risks so we can see and we know what do we have to address first, what's most likely to happen and how bad is it going to hit us. We also keep records of each risk, its likelihood, its impact, its vulnerabilities, and any existing controls that we're using to make sure that that doesn't happen. And again, we're going to regularly revisit and update the risk assessment to reflect evolving information, shifts in the business landscape, emergence of new risk, etc. And this type of a diligent approach is going to help us make sure that we're current. And at the very end of the risk assessment, we go into something called the mitigation strategy phase, which is a tactical endeavor to combat high priority risks. We're going to devise some strategies to either curtail likelihood, mitigate their impact, or we might even decide to live with the risk. It's entirely up to us. And we could, strengthen our cybersecurity defenses, diversify our supplier base. We can have contingency plans, etc. It's whatever makes sense for us. And if we do this, we're going to have the insights and the strategies we need to navigate potential threats as best we can. we talked earlier about the 9 different components that make business continuity effective. I've only talked about 2 of them, the business impact assessment and the risk assessment, because they are the critical first steps. If you do nothing else, these are the 2 most absolutely important activities. They're foundational. Once you have them, you have the information that you need to develop the other components of business continuity that you should be also addressing. So let's talk a little bit about some best practices for business continuity. To be stable and for long-term success, it's important for any business to be well prepared for any eventuality. And that's really easy to say. But there are 10 cornerstone business continuity best practices. These are in no particular order, as each one holds equal weight in building a resilient and robust organizational framework. So we can use data backup strategies. We can protect our organization's data by establishing regular and reliable backup procedures. Duh, of course we should back up our data. We can store backups off-site in the cloud. We should also do periodic checks on our data, right? And to make sure that the data is correct, we can do tabletop exercises to simulate data recovery, testing the strength of the strategy. One thing we can do is cross-train our employees. So we can enhance our people's versatility and resilience through cross-training by developing the ability of employees to perform multiple roles. We can help protect ourselves in case a key person is not available. So that's really, really important. We can have a really good communication plan. So we can mitigate any operational disruptions by crafting a comprehensive comms plan that tells clear protocols and backup communication channels to use if primary systems fail. And again, we can test this through tabletop exercises and prepare people for a variety of crisis scenarios. But if we know what we're going to say in advance, or at least have some idea, it's going to help us. We can also strengthen our organization's digital defenses by employing firewalls, antivirus software, continuous monitoring, cybersecurity measures. We need to educate our team about cyber threats like phishing, and so that they can identify and avoid potential threats. So these are just some of the things we should be doing. And of course, we should have a robust document management and access system. We need seamless access to important documents. We need secure cloud-based document management system with access controls, with encryption. We can keep sensitive information secure, like a lock and key type of system. We can have really good business continuity planning as one of the things. We can navigate through challenging situations. We can maintain a comprehensive and accessible BCP and keep it effective by regularly updating it to reflect any new insights and procedures. We should have an emergency response team that should be available, that's trained, and that they can execute business continuity with agility and accuracy, right? We should have some legal and regulatory compliance practices that are up to date, so that we can review and adjust our policies. And we should make sure that we have uninterrupted client service delivery through, we can use remote consultations, we can use virtual meetings. And we saw this during the pandemic, where we all shifted to working remotely, and for the most part, it was successful. So the last one is, we need a resilient and responsive business by instituting a regimen of review and tabletop testing of our BCP. Any exercises would allow us to verify effectiveness and readiness so we can face some real world challenges. And if we integrate all of these lovely 10 strategies into our daily routine, which we're probably doing anyway, we're not going to be immune to threats, but we're going to be able to better face them if they do happen. So these were just some of the essential practices that should be just business as usual for your operations. They ensure day-to-day smooth functioning and fortify your business against a range of disruptions. For anything from sneaky cyber attacks to unpredictable natural disasters, we should be covered. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, to conclusion, but I know it's a lot of information to throw at folks, but it's stuff we should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
Over the mic.
Yeah. Thank you again, Debbie. Very informative. And I mean, yeah, it's such an important, but it's also a broad, topic that has lots of fingers and legs to it, to be able to do it right. And hearing this and hearing all the elements sometimes presented in such a short amount of time there, it's like we were all kind of drinking from a fire hose. But look, this is all fantastic. Every business should be implementing something. So it's really the cornerstone of operational resilience, and really the tool that empowers your business, your firm, not only to withstand and quickly recover from disruptions. And this ability to bounce back, it's really crucial in today's business landscape. So one of the primary roles of a real well-structured plan is to protect critical business functions, right? I mean, it acts as a shield, safeguarding essential functions from a wide range of threats, whether they're cyber attacks, natural disasters, unforeseen events, doesn't matter. So effective planning is really also a strategic tool for risk management and mitigation. Like, it goes beyond identifying potential risks. It involves the implementation of strategies to mitigate against these risks. And really, in essence, it's your insurance policy against unforeseen impacts that could otherwise cripple your operations. So, and staying compliant, with legal and regulatory requirements is paramount, all depending on what type of your business you're in. Certainly if you're law firm, insurance, any of those that are a little bit more regulated. So really, business continuity and planning helps you stay on the right side of the law and those compliance requirements. So proactive planning definitely has financial benefits as well. Like, it can significantly reduce the financial impact of a disruption, both in how long it takes you to recover, but also by hopefully mitigating some things and bringing down the costs of recovery for your firm. And as Debbie mentioned, empowering employees is another essential aspect. One person cannot just do all this. Like, there's no way around it. Plus, you need that continuity in knowledge as well. If one person knows it and they leave the business, or they're sick or just not around, you need that continuity amongst other people to be able to carry out whatever plan, whatever process and procedure that you're going to have. And then, as Debbie mentioned, that regular and testing your plans to ensure its adaptability, is crucial to making sure that you have the right plan in place. And things change in your business over time. That's why you have to continue to review, do these tabletop exercises, because you'll notice, oh, yeah, we added a new service or a new department, or this critical person is gone. Whatever the case is, doing all of those things is definitely necessary. So, look, navigating the intricacies of business continuity, it demands a thoughtful approach, and one that carefully balances technology and policy. So, really, to take the first step towards business continuity strategy, go ahead and connect with us. We'd love to help out. Myself, Debbie, any of the other resources here at PACE. So, we're here to offer any range of resources, expert consultations, and when required, specialized services. Like, I've talked to lots of businesses that have tried to take this on themselves, doing Google search, maybe downloading, templates that they can find on the internet, and they're there in abundance. But you know what? They're all over the place. And to try and navigate those and adapt them and make sure that you're covering all the right things for your business, it's almost impossible just trying to do that yourself. You might be able to come up and scrape something together, but is it going to be the right thing that's really going to benefit your business? That's the piece that we're not so sure about. So look, this is a service that we offer for businesses, business continuity planning, disaster recovery planning. So we can certainly help your business and your firm out with any of those things. And here's how you would get in touch with us. So I believe the next slide is just Q&A. So I'm just going to back up and I'm going to leave the contact on here, and I'm just going to check for some questions. So we do have a couple of questions here, Debbie.
So
maybe
I can take the first one. So the question was, how long does the process take from start to finish? Great question. The easy answer is 6 to 12 weeks, but a better answer is it depends what your personal pressures are and how much time you have. If you do business continuity before an incident has happened, which is when you should do it, then you have a little bit more time. If you're doing it during or after an event, well, you don't have very much time at all. And you've got to be a retrospect. But typically, and all of the different components, it may look overwhelming. There are 9 components to a whole business continuity ecosystem. And I hate the word ecosystem, but that's what the only comprehensive word I can think of for describing all the different things. They don't have to be 9 separate documents. It could be one document, it can be one plan or a couple of plans, but all of the information needs to be covered. And typically it takes at a minimum 6 weeks to come up with, to find the content in your organization. Also remember, you have a day job. So are you going to drop everything you do and, devote, X amount of time? No. So you're going to be working among other projects and hopefully, then another question is, how many people do I need on the team? Well, ultimately, you need one person, and that's the person with the power to declare that there's some sort of an incident is happening. But that person needs support. So they need support from technical resources, from somebody who has a human resources function, from somebody that understands the business of the organization, for somebody like a managed service provider like PACE as an example. You need that. So it depends on the size of your organization and what you're trying to protect. But you certainly need several people at a minimum. But those individuals carry different roles, and one person can have multiple hats, right? So ultimately, I mean, a bare minimum is one, but I would hate to have one. I would usually have 3 to 5 people that are dedicated to business continuity in some form or fashion. And then the other question was, do all businesses need to do all 9? Well, yes, they do. However, let me clarify what I mean by that. The same way that we use the example of a $5,000 and $5 million loan, you have to do the due diligence. It doesn't matter the container that you put it in or the order that you do it in, whatever, but you still need the information. For example, if there's an emergency, I need to know what to do. If there's an incident, I need to know what to do. If I want to train my people, I need to know what to do. If I want to recover my systems, I need to know what to do. So I need all of these different components together, but it's proportional. If I have a team of 10 people versus a team of 100 people versus a team of 1,000 people, I'm obviously going to have different, I'm still going to do all of the steps, but the content for each one has to be customizable. Mike was talking about, yes, you can go on Google and you can get all different kinds of things to help you and tools, but it has to be proportional to your business, and only you know what that is. So no tool on the internet will tell you what is special about your company and your business and your clients and what they need and how to protect them. Only you know that. You're the expert on that. So there you go.
Okay. And we have one other question in the Q&A, and I know it was submitted anonymous, but if whoever the anonymous person can get in touch with me, there are certain other parts of the answer that I'd love to discuss further. But the question is basically around, testing of backups due to compliance requirements, and this organization has to adhere to PCI compliance. And in doing a recovery test, can you just, test one and recover one file and say, oh, the backup is good? To a certain extent, yes. I guess it all depends on the type of backup. And I guess this is why it needs a little further conversation to see what type of data, how the backups are structured and whatnot. But definitely, I think you should be doing more than just relying on backing up one file. That is one piece of it. But for continuity's sake, if you are running internal servers or you're running cloud services, you do need to make sure that all the services can be recovered in the event of a full disaster. But again, that is going to require a little further conversation to answer completely. But the short answer is you should be trying to do, almost similar to a fire drill, like unplugging things and, now where do we go from here? So, but that we can take offline to answer the rest of that question. Okay. So, I think we've gotten through all the questions and we are just about at the top of the hour. It seemed like the timing, even though, and I apologize again to everyone for the technical glitches that we had in the middle, and that is my fault. And then I will blame part of it on Zoom because we did test out that whole control access thing and it worked perfectly in our test webinar. And for whatever reason, I don't know, it's Zoom. So with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Davy again for her help and her knowledge on this topic. And for everybody else, I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, bye everyone. Bye now.